be sharing and demonstrating my top tips for creating volume in wavy or curly hair. And if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle and I'm a licensed hairstylist with over 20 years of experience. And on this channel, I use those years of experience to help you have healthy, happy hair. Now, my first tip, and I cannot stress this enough, the products that you use are key to getting volume in your hair. Your hair isn't going to get voluminous or stay voluminous if you're using really heavy products or if you're using really moisturizing, really emollient products. Those can be really good if your hair is dry or damaged. However, if what you're looking for is volume and you don't have dry, damaged hair, all that's gonna do is just weigh your hair down. So for me, because my hair is overall pretty healthy, I do also have coarse hair and it is dense. So I don't need a lot of moisture and a lot of emollient ingredients in my hair because I don't have damaged hair. I do like to use leave-in conditioner that has a heat protectant or a UV protectant, or in the case of the Keratin hyaluronic acid detangling spray, one that has all of that. I also like this because of the amount of protein that's in it, and my hair is absolutely loving that because it is on the slippery side. Contrary to popular belief, coarse hair is not automatically rough hair. You can have coarse hair that is also soft and slippery. Coarse just is in reference to the diameter of the individual hair strand. The larger it is, the coarser it is. The smaller it is, the finer it is. It does not mean whether or not it's rough or soft. So I really like this one for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, and because it doesn't really weigh my hair down with a bunch of stuff that it really doesn't need. So I'm just gonna go ahead and spray this through my hair. And this is a pretty watery spray. It's a lot of times I do like to spray things in my hands and put it in there, but there are some things that I find that just work better when sprayed. And the other thing is, you can see from my shirt, my hair is pretty wet. It's not dripping everywhere wet, but it is pretty wet. And that's just how I find that styling my hair works the best in order to avoid the creation of frizz that I don't want. And once that's sprayed in, I do brush it through in order to evenly distribute. This is something that I do quite a bit throughout my styling process. I'm always making sure to fully and evenly distribute products through my hair. And now the next product, and I'm actually going to be using quite a few different products and showing you all of my volume tips. You don't have to use every single type of product that I use. I don't even use this many all of the time. I do like using multiple products because each product does something completely different. So it does help me to achieve the results that I'm looking for without my hair being over producty. And it might seem like the more products you use, the more likely it is to be over producty, but that's not true. Generally, you wind up with that when you just put too much of one product in. But if you're using smaller amounts of several different products in order to get the most out of them for what they specifically do for your hair, you're generally going to have less producty feeling hair. In fact, most of the time my hair doesn't even feel like it's got products on it, but I'm getting the results that I'm after because of the combination of products that I'm using. So the first one I'm gonna start with is actually going to be the Aquage Uplifting Foam. And you don't have to use this specific foam. I would recommend, if you're gonna do something like this, to find a foam that is lightweight, that is volumizing. So this one says uplifting. So look for keywords like that, uplifting, volumizing, those types of things, and use those. And this one has like this nozzle, so it can actually be sprayed at the roots. I just tend not to. And then I put just a small amount in my hands, and I do put it in at the roots. And I know there are a lot of hair influencers that say not to put any product up at your roots. And that's not true. Your roots is where you're gonna get the majority of your volume from. If your hair is flat in through here, but your roots are lifted, you're still gonna look like you have a lot fuller hair than if your roots are flat and your hair through here is also flat. So it makes more sense to put volumizing products up at the roots to help start getting lift and volume directly from there. And then as you see, as I'm going through, I'm kind of bringing my hands down, but it's not bringing a lot of product all throughout my hair. It's just bringing it down a little bit so that there is some product in through here. So I'm not just getting lift at the roots, I'm kind of bringing it through the sides as well. So when it comes to putting products at your roots, it's not that you can't, it's just what products you're putting there and how you're putting there and how much you're using. Because if you're using too much, it can definitely weigh it down. If you're using something that's more moisturizing and emollient, it's most definitely going to weigh your hair down. But if you're using something that is volumizing, something lightweight and just a small amount of it, just enough for it to do its job, then you're going to get the results that you're looking for. Moving on to the next product, I'm going to be putting in some curl cream. And now this isn't necessarily a volume tip. I just always use curl cream because I like it for frizz control and for clumping and definition. I find that it works really well for that, more so than just going straight to mousse or straight to a gel. So I generally use curl cream most of the time. However, when I'm going for volume, I look for curl creams that either help to create volume, and one of those is the Verb Curl Cream, and actually has some hold, and it's really good for volume. I'm not using it this time. My video that I did before this one, I used it, and you can see a lot of volume in the results that I got in that one. So I decided to use this one this time, and this is the Briogeo Curl Charisma Curl Cream. And this one I find is pretty lightweight for me, and it's got protein in it, so I can see this also working well for people who have fine, easily weighed down, slippery hair because of all the protein. Of course, if you have super fine, super low density, and just anything will weigh it down, then this could potentially still be a little too heavy for you. But overall, I do find that this is on the lighter side of things, and because of that protein, it helps with really slippery hair, which is what I have. And I also really like the way that this one defines my curls too. So this doesn't take away from the volume, but it doesn't really add to the volume in the way that the Verb Curl Cream does. But like I said, I just wanted to do something a little bit different. And if you want to see that one in action, I'll just go ahead and put a card up here so you can see that one. I'm starting off with just a very small amount. As you can see, when I apply it, I start by applying it in my mid-lengths through my ends, and then I start working my hands a little bit higher, bringing it up to my roots. And that's because this is one of those products that you don't want to have a ton of up at your roots. Not that you don't want any of it, but you just want to keep it minimal, because curl creams can weigh your roots down. However, you do want a little bit up there so that your roots can also benefit from the frizz control and the definition, or the defining factor, or the things that the curl creams can do. You want your roots to benefit from that as well, but you don't want so much up there that it's causing your hair to be really weighed down or look kind of greasy. And my next tip is how I style my hair with the curl cream in. I like to use a brush in order to style my hair, but you could also use your fingers or whatever styling technique works best for you. But the way that you get volume from your styling techniques, especially when you're doing upright styling, which I never do upside down styling at all. I think it just kind of creates wonkiness. Also, with my back the way that it is, there's literally no way that I could spend that amount of time upside down. So I do upright styling. But upright styling, as long as you're brushing out like what I'm doing right here, where I'm coming out at a 90-degree angle from my head, that is going to keep my hair from being stuck to my scalp, and it's going to help give a little bit of lift and volume. And if you're styling with fingers or doing some kind of rake and shake or something like that, you can still do that, going 90 degrees from your head and giving it a shake or giving it a rake. You just kind of bring it out, smooth it out as much as you can with your fingers, and then give it a rake to get the clumps going and be done. And you can do this in much smaller sections. I just showed you in a large section. It can be done however you need to, as long as you're doing it at a 90-degree angle from your scalp. So as I do this section, I'm doing out this way, and as I'm up at the top, I'm going straight up. So now we're going to be moving on to the hold products. And again, the product selection is key throughout the entire styling process. So I'm going to be using the InnerSense I Create Volume. This is a very liquidy gel, which I really like, and I do find that this does help give my hair a lot of volume. It is really nice and lightweight. It's very easy to distribute, which is why I like liquidy gels to begin with. And it does help with hold and definition. However, it doesn't give me as much hold as I like, so I will be following it up with a mousse. And the way that I apply gel is I kind of glaze it over. I put my fingers kind of in between the curl clumps. I'm not really raking. I'm just letting my hair fall in between my fingers so that everything gets nice and evenly coated, and I also scrunch it in. And I focus mostly on my mid-lengths and ends, but I do also, with whatever little bit is left, bring it up to the top because I do want hold up at the top. So that's all applied, and as I said, I will be putting a mousse in, and I'm going to be using the Surface Curls Firm Styling Mousse. And I do find that this is probably medium to firm as far as hold goes. Firm for a mousse, because mousses don't have, even firm hold mousses don't have usually as much hold as a firm hold gel, but I find that together with a lighter hold gel, this mousse is great. Plus, it helps give my hair a little bit more volume. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get a blob in my hand. I kind of do the same thing where I just spread it through my hair, glaze it over, kind of get it in between the curl clumps. And I always put a mousse in after a gel because I find that it helps to kind of further clump and define the hair when I do it that way. And yet, because it's a mousse, it's going to help add volume, so all that clumping and definition is not going to take away from my volume. And you'll see that I'm also making sure to put a little bit up at the roots as well, and scrunching my hair all the way up to the roots. And doing the same thing on the other side. Mousses in general tend to be a bit more volumizing than a gel, and at the very least, they tend to be lighter weight than some gels. There are some gels that are definitely lighter weight, like the one that I use, but in general, mousses do tend to be a little bit more volumizing, or at the very least, a little bit lighter weight. And I really like using both a mousse and a gel. I've been doing that since probably the early 90s, maybe even earlier than that. I just find that I get the best results when I combine a mousse and a gel. And another tip for volume, if you're really struggling with volume, especially if you have really soft, slippery hair, is to add some type of texturizing spray like a sea salt spray. So I'm going to be using the Verb Sea Spray in my hair because, as I said, my hair has been a little bit slippery, and adding this little bit of extra grit and grip is going to help my hair get a little bit more volume, because super soft, slippery hair will not hold pretty much anything, really. It doesn't want to hold curl very well, and it doesn't want to hold volume very well. So adding something like this can definitely help with that. And again, you don't have to use all of these tips or all of these products. You can pick and choose whatever is going to work best for you. My last product tip before diffusing is going to be using a hairspray. I'm going to be using the Rizzo's Curls Volumizing Spray because this is a video about volume, and this definitely does help give volume. But most hairsprays will do this. I tend to use hairspray before I diffuse all the time because I do find that it helps keep the frizz down while I'm diffusing, and it really helps to set everything in place and help my curls and waves to last a little bit longer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give my hair a spritz all over. My next tip for getting volume into your hair is to blow dry it using a diffuser. Air drying your hair can leave that weight, because all this water in my hair right now and the products is weighing my hair down. There's weight to that. It gets pretty heavy. So if my hair is that heavy while it's drying, it really isn't gonna dry with a whole lot of volume. And if I use one of these, I can do it in a way that's going to kind of help defy gravity a little bit so that it can dry and bounce up versus just hang there. However, you can help air drying along with a little bit of root volume at the very least by doing some root clipping. I'm not going to show that in this video because I do have a detailed video all about it right up here. So if you'd like to see how to do root clipping, you can check that out, and you can certainly incorporate that into the tips that I'm going to be showing you with the diffusing. So the first thing I do in diffusing is I start off by hover drying all the way kind of around the top a little bit, and I don't wait for it to get completely dry. I just start doing that and getting my hair to start to spring up and to start to not be dragged down so much. And then I take the prongs of the diffuser and I bring it into my scalp and I lift up, and then I hold it there for a little while. And as you can see, this is lifting up all of my hair from my scalp so it's not stuck to it, so that it can dry not stuck to my scalp, and I can get a little bit of lift and volume. And then I just kind of continue that around the top of my head. And then after I have done that for a little while, and I can feel my hair starting to dry somewhat, probably about 10% dry, I then start to I flip my head forward and I put my hair in the palm of my hand and I lift up again to defy gravity. And then I bring the diffuser to the middle of my hair and start drying it that way. And that's gonna help get this stuff dry and lift it up so that it's not dragged down. And so that'll be able to spring up as well. And that way you're not just going after the ends and making the ends really dry while this is still staying pretty wet. So I do that first, and I do that going around my head like this, and then flipping forward and doing that. And then I start to flip from one side to the other, and I'll be bringing the prongs of the diffuser at my scalp and holding it there, but then also doing the technique of lifting my hair up from the bottom and drying that way as well. Once I've gotten it to about 50% dry at that point, that's when I start putting my hair in the bowl of the diffuser and then bringing it all the way up to my head. And then I just keep repeating and alternating all of those same techniques until my hair is completely dry or pretty close to being dry. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So my hair is now diffused dry to about, 95 to 99% dry. And the reason why I say that is because when it's a little bit warm from the hot air from the dryer, it feels drier than what it is, but that's okay. It's gonna be just fine for what I need at the moment. And we are not done yet. So I'm going to grab that volumizing hairspray and I'm going to spray it at my roots, just kind of lifting up my hair and spraying at the roots. And then while that hairspray is still wet, I'm going to go in with my blow dryer without the diffuser on, and I'm gonna start blowing it at my roots, first one way, then another way, then going forward, and kind of flip back and forth like that, while kind of scrubbing at my roots with my fingers to help give a little bit of lift and volume. And flipping it back and forth like that is gonna help to kind of get it to start to move in the one direction, but then when your hair comes back down, it'll kind of give it a little bit of lift right up at the roots, which is going to help contribute to some volume. So this is my hair completely dry, and as you can see, I've got some great volume and some great root lift up here. And yeah, overall, I've got some nice bouncy curls, and my hair is pretty much completely dry at this point. Sometimes the ends are a little bit wet or a little bit damp, just very slightly damp. And then all I do is I just wait until they're completely dry, and then I will put in my serum after they're completely dry. And now it's because of that last technique that I showed you that I do recommend putting in some decent hold products, or you're gonna wind up with a little bit more frizz than what you bargained for. Overall, this definitely helps give a lot of lift and volume at the roots, and even throughout here, throughout the lengths as well. Of course, it's not all about the techniques and products. It's also partially down to your haircut as well. If you have long hair that's very heavy and it's all one length, you're not gonna get as much volume as shorter hair with some layers. And my hair is very layered. So that's part of the reason why I get the volume that I do. And also my hair is high density. So oftentimes, even when it's flat, it looks like it's nice and full just because of how much hair I have. So that's also something to keep in mind. So now it's time for me to go ahead and put in my serum. And again, products are key. I'm gonna be using the Verb Ghost Oil. This is one that I've been using for a very long time. Those of you who have been here watching me for a while, you already know and probably predicted this before I even put it up on the screen. It's just one that I absolutely love. It is weightless. It does help to seal and protect. It's great for scrunching out the crunch. But like I said, it's weightless. It isn't gonna weigh anything down. And I typically, with the amount of hair that I have, one pump is plenty because a little of this goes a very long way. And I just go over and smooth through my mid-links and ends just to get it distributed. And then as a lot of that is disappearing from my hands, that's when I kind of bring it up here to smooth that down a little bit as well and to seal and protect. but I don't want a lot up at my roots, because even though this is weightless, you still don't want a ton of serum up near your roots, because that will start to kind of weigh your hair down and also potentially make it look greasy, because as you can see, there's a bit of a sheen here. And on your hair up near the roots, that sheen might look more like grease. And then I start scrunching it with the very little that I have left in my hands. And the reason why I do that is because if you just go directly into scrunching with that amount of product on your hands, you're gonna wind up with a large amount of it in the first place that you scrunched and not much throughout the rest of your hair. So putting it on first and making sure it's nice and evenly distributed before you scrunch is a good way to make sure that you don't wind up with a lot of product in one spot and not enough in others. So once that's all in and you've scrunched out whatever crunch that you have, it's time to go ahead and give your hair a fluff. And I make sure to wash and completely dry my hands before I do that, because again, I don't want any residue of that serum on my hands when I'm going at my roots to give a good fluff, because like I mentioned, it'll kind of make your hair a little bit greasy and could do the opposite and then rob your hair of volume. So I'm just gonna go in up underneath and give a good shake. And this is where having those products up at your roots are really gonna help with that grit that you kind of put in there, and the volumizing and the hold. It's going to help to hang on to this fluffing a little bit longer than if you didn't have any of it up in there. Here we are, scrunched, fluffed, dried, everything is done. As you notice, I do have a small amount of frizz, probably a little bit more frizz than what I do if I'm going for definition, but that's okay, because this type of frizz really is going to help with that volume. So it's more of a functional frizz rather than a frizz or an annoying frizz. So I'm okay with that little bit of frizz if it's going to get me the volume that I'm after. And lately I've been really liking the big voluminous hair, so I'm completely fine with winding up with a little bit of frizz. So this looks great just the way that it is. You can leave it like this, or you can do one final spritz of the hairspray all over just to make sure everything is going to be held and set in place. And putting that little bit of hairspray all over your hair is also going to add a little extra grit all over your hair, so it's going to help kind of hold the volume, or at least make it easier to kind of refluff and get that volume back throughout the rest of the day. I am not going to do that at this point. I am totally fine with how my hair is looking right now, and I know that this is going to hang on for a little while. Now, I know that a lot of you who've been following me for quite some time have probably seen me use all of these techniques at one point or another, and maybe even multiple times, but I decided that it was time to just kind of put everything all in one video for anyone who hasn't seen all of that, or for those of you who are new to my channel. First of all, welcome. And if you haven't seen all of these tips in some of my other videos, then now I have it here in this one video for you. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.